Hello, everybody, and thank you for a wonderful class today. I'm making this video as a quick follow-up. Um, if you made it to the wholesale part, get as far as you can. If you need help, this video is for you. We were in a rushing class because you all had some fantastic questions in breakout rooms. I heard you all thinking about levels of detail that I'm grateful you shared with me because it gave me awareness as an educator of how complex these things can get for your jobs. I want to go ahead and make sure if you don't hear anything else from today's recording for class, don't overcomplicate it. All right. Make it as simple or as complex as you want to, but go for simple. I mean this. If you get to an hour and you're still working on this, stop. Explain what you learned, explain what you're struggling with, explain your awareness of the variables, because that is the main takeaway. If you get to question 8, and I want to go ahead and let you know, question 8 is going to be discussed on the last question is going to be discussed on the discussion board for the asynchronous folks, because we did discuss it somewhat today in class. It is just your conclusions after you look through this. And as long as you get part of the way through the assignment, you're going to get the correct idea that about what we can and cannot do with linear models and if they hold up over time. Now, if you want to get into more detail for your wholesale problem, that's what today's video is for. So if you'll please go ahead and join me at looking at my whiteboard. All right. So when we're looking at wholesale, you can make this as complicated or as easy as you want. And during class, I did it the way I visualize being able to compare costs, which means I was looking up here at our retail problem where I was dealing with 32 fluid ounce jars. I want to be able to compare like apples to apples, size to size. You've probably heard me say it like 5 times during the lesson. Well, when we're dealing with 32 fluid ounce jars, we have to do a little math over here for our wholesale. So you saw me do this math during the lesson, but I'm explaining why right now. You'll see here that we have this M, it's 31.99 now divided by 16. Well, where did that come from? When we're dealing with this problem, we can only buy one case at a time. And each case has 4 gallons in it. I'm gonna go ahead and start with 1 gallon, all right? Well, first, we don't have units that are the same. We got gallons to ounces, and that's its own headache. Lucky for us, we know right here, this 28, if we divide it by our 32 fluid ounces, all right, our 32 fluid ounces, that tells us that this value, we have 4 of our old unit, our old 32 fluid ounce jars or retail jars. So 4 of our retail jars fit into 1 gallon. Well, what does that mean for a full case? Well, it says here that a case is 4 gallons, and we're not looking at 1 gallon, we're looking at 4. So we're going to come in here. What you do to one side of the equation, for as long as you do the exact same thing, you retain the original value of the equation. In other words, this proportion will stay the same if we were to reduce it back to 1 gallon. We will be dealing with 4 gallons. That means 16 of our old retail jars, 16 of our 32 fluid ounce retail jars, or jars that are 32 fluid ounces, fits into 1 case. So jars that are 32 fluid ounces a piece fit into 1 wholesale case. Now, this is the part that I kind of skimmed over because we were running low on time. I need to put gallons here. You saw me do it. You may have not have understood why. When I come up here and look at that $31.99 price, I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 16 because that tells me, oh, hypothetically, 1 old retail jar would be that divided by 16. You can't actually order that amount, so we'll have to correct that And that's what this video is addressing, that correction. If we're going to come up with that first equation, we're still dealing with the y, just like in the retail video, and the x being open. We're still dealing with the base rate being that if you're dealing with a monthly order. In this case, we are dealing with Websternaut. That is the source that I used here. And so if you go into Websternaut, it is in the chat. If you need a retail store, the chat of the live lesson, if you're asynchronous, go look at that. It is $99 a month. And again, don't make math too awful complicated. You can leave the base rate off from these things if you don't even want to consider that level of math. Just look at unit rate. That's fine too. All right, so then we're going to take the $31.99. We're looking at apples to apples, size to size, jars to jars. And our first equation was done in 32 fluid ounce jars. So we want to think of this in 32 fluid ounce jars. I got tongue tied there. And so 16 in one case. I'm going to show you the math, why we're doing it this way real quickly. If we go ahead and rewrite that, let's assume we wanted to look at one case. We were going to order one case. Well, how many of our old jars fit into one case? Well, 16. So 16 old jars fit into one case. And I want you to think about it that way. 16 of those old jars fit into one case. Oops, 16 of those old jars fit into one case. And there's a reason I'm repeating that. Super important. I'm going to put brackets around this. They work as the same as parentheses here. I just want you to see that is what we're plugging in. Now, I did this math in my graphing calculator. You can do this math in your graphing calculator too. You aren't expected to show this. If you think of it this way, you'll notice PEMDAS, if you heard me explain during the lesson or watched the live recording, if you have multiplication and division, that's what you're looking at right there. It's all multiplication and division. Now, addition in PEMDAS is dealt with last. We'll deal with that later. We're doing the operations as they appear this time. We're not doing opposite operation. We're solving on one side is the operations as they appear. So we're doing PEMDAS in its original order. That means that multiplication and division we can still do interchangeably. We can choose to cancel out these 16s. And that's what happens when you look at it this way. So we are looking at one case. That's $31.99. And your points are going to be 16 times one case, 16 times two cases, 16 times three cases, because 16 of your retail jars fit into that. And so when you look at your graphs on the same screen, they will look like the same unit. Now, if you'll continue to bear with me, this level of math, just want you to have it for your awareness. You are not required to do. That changes. We can do 16 times 2, 3, 4. But you'll notice that this price is only up to 12 cases. All right, lots of 12. We can't buy 11.5 in this case. We can only buy actually up to and including 11 because we can't go between. We can't get half a case. We can't get 11.5 cases. So you hear me get all excited about these. In the real world, we don't care about negatives, so we will be starting at greater than or equal to 0. And we will be going up to 11. Here's what's important. That's technically 0 times 16, but it cancels out. Who cares? I corrected it during the lesson, but this is 11 times 16. Remember, we got to account for the fact that we changed our units here, so we got to take that right back out. And if you don't include that 16 for your x, what you input at certain points, you're going to see it. I caught this on my graphing calculator. And I'm actually really glad I made this error, because if you made this error, if I made it, it's okay if you make it too. The goal of this assignment is awareness. And you may not catch it like me because you may not know what to look for, and that's okay. I don't expect you to be an expert after one video. I just expect you to understand why there are experts who do this for a living, and be able to, if you're in a pinch, make a good estimated decision. Because if you take this 11 times 16, notice you plug it in here. The 16s are going to cancel again. You're left with 11 cases times $31.99 a case. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move this work over here because it's not something I'm requiring. It was just kind of looking behind the math why we are doing the times 16 and have to reaccount for it. When we get to more than 12 cases, our price goes down, and that's good for us. Everything here is going to remain the same, except for that unit price. That $31.99 is going to change. So $31.99, 29, 93. Now we got to be specific for the reader of our work, so they know what we're doing, or so we know what we're doing, what we're looking at. These are braces. During the live class, I showed you how to find those. They are on your keyboard next to the letter P. They are where you put your restrictions in. We're dealing with the more than 12 cases. This is going to be X's that are greater than or equal to 12 cases where we have 16 of our hypothetical jars or 16 of our retail jars exist in one case. We cannot buy half a case. Depending on your retail shop, when I originally did this lesson, I did pickles that they have 4 different price points and they had 4 different equations, and it just turned a mess. Notice there's 2 prices. Who cares about the rest? If you get just one of these equations, that's okay. Okay, if you don't come up with the second one, that's fine. That's why I said I'm chopping this off at this equation. I said that during the live lesson. It's going to be in the announcement as well. If you get from there up, you're good. All right. And if you don't get from there up, explain what you learned, your awareness of what comes into play, and then submit it. Please don't ever spin your wheels on this. I'm going to take this and plug it into my graphing calculator. This was the retail problem. In order to save time, I went ahead and typed my first wholesale problem in there. I went ahead and brought back up the table for the retail. I'll go ahead and turn off my retail grapher now. Please ignore what's there in gold. We are looking at this purple graph. All right. And so I'm going to go ahead and put my restrictions in. We are looking at X's that are between 0 and 11. And that's a less than followed by equal. We'll make the less than or equal to sign. That's important. Now, you're going to see that I did not include the 16 here either. I'm glad these pop up because if I sometimes skip over it, you're probably going to skip over it too, and that's okay. Errors are allowed on this. I don't expect you all to be math people. Now, look what happens. If we do 1x, well, that's one of our 16 fluid ounce jars. We got to remember there are, I said that wrong. One of our 32 fluid ounce jars, which there happens to be 16 in our case. All right. So one of our 32 fluid ounce jars, we're going to have to multiply by 16 to figure out that data point. All right. Then we know if we want 2 cases, well, we got to do that same for 2 cases. 3 cases, 3 times 16. 4 cases, 4 times 16. 5 cases, 5 times 16. 20 cases, 20 times 16. And you're going to see this keeps coming up because the 16 in the denominator will cancel out with that 16 we plug in for our x here, and it's just going to give you $31.99 per case. $31.99 for 2 cases. And so then that's just $31.99 times 1, $31.99 2. I keep blurring things together. $31.99 times 2, $31.99 times 3, and so on and so forth. Everything between increments of 16 are not valid data points. Only the increments of 16 are. Now, watch this. For the purposes of today, everything in gold, retail, between our points, that's also something important to know because we can't have half a jar, right? I mean, that is important as well. We have 1, 2, 3. Notice that we can't have, turn off my line. This does apply for retail as well. And let me zoom in better. It's a micro. We know we can only buy 1 jar. We can't buy half a jar. Having trouble with my Zoom. There we go. See, retail has that same restriction. You're gonna see that. And so 20 and then 1,000, I think was the 3,000. You don't have to do the same points that was in the video. I just wanted to bring those back. But notice it's any 32 fluid ounce jar. These are increments of one, nothing between one exists. As you can't buy half a jar. In this case, you can't buy half a pallet. Nothing between 1 times 16 exists. Now, if you're looking here, you're not going to see your wholesale because it starts at a much higher price. Suddenly, here's your wholesale. All right. These are your valid wholesale points. Valid wholesale points are in purple. Valid, and now there are more valid gold ones here. I just put them all between, it's every single increment of one, everything that you could possibly output. For integers, we could restrict this to integers. That's important as well. But if you don't know that word, because this is not a math class, that's why I don't want to stress you out too much. Now, I'm super glad that I put 20 times 16 on this because you'll notice it's undefined. Why is it undefined? Can we have 20 cases at this price? No, we can only have 11 cases at this price, and that's why it does not show up. We need to go ahead and put in our next wholesale part. Now, there is a different way to put what's called piecewise equations into Desmos. My goal is not to confuse you today. My goal is to make it as easy as possible. Take your old function, change that numerator to your smaller price. In this case, it was 29. We will figure it out. 29.93. So 29.93 divided by 16, but we can't use that for anything less than 12 jars. So these are for x's that are greater than or equal to 12, and that is 12 times 16. However many of your retail unit fit into your wholesale unit is what's going to happen there. That's why I have 16. Your number may be different. You can also, you don't have to do this in the same size. You don't want to. It's totally valid. You can do your gallons to, your gallons to ounce conversions at a different point. Make this as simple or as easy as you want. If after this video you still don't know what I'm talking about, explain what you do know and submit it. You're fine. 12 times 16. And notice when we bring open the table here, it's going to look a little different. If I were to do 1 times 16, it doesn't appear. If I were to do 11 times 16, again, 11 cases, has 16 of our retail jars hypothetically in them. It doesn't exist. But as soon as we get to 12 times 16, it does exist. And 13 times 16. And so on and so forth. And I think on the paper that I gave you some points. You don't have to use the same ones. You can go up in cases that are one at a time. That is not going to bother me one bit. In fact, I like for you to make this your own. I made this prompt very detailed in order for those of you who ask me for prompts that have the level of detail I'm so that way you have a clear level of detail. More power to you if you want to do the bed complex prompt. But if you want to take that prompt and go, I don't care about all that, I'm going to do a mom and pop restaurant. Make it your own. You don't have to be restricted by me. That's why Dr. Cole, you'll notice she has a lot of open-ended prompts, and I love how creative those get. And that's why I actually do love open-ended prompts as well. They both have their perks. So if you want to be guided, do it exactly how it appears in Canvas. If you want to make it as creative as you did on those other prompts, change the setup. It doesn't have to be Olive Garden. It can be a mom and pop restaurant. You can take some other scenario, just explain it to me. Food truck, whatever. Make it your own. You'll notice things start to change. There's get over 20 cases. We could look at 100 cases. Now, things are going to get to where it's hard to see it on the graphing calculator, and that's important. So here's our gold is retail. Purple is wholesale up to 11 cases. Now, again, I didn't show it all the way to 11. It does end up here. Let me go ahead and put 11 so you can see where it ends. It is technically, there are more points. If you're going to generate them all, it's going to be a headache. I just want you to put enough points. Now, notice here, your wholesale price at 11 cases for 16. And that Let's see, and that is your 12 cases. Yes. I just want you to see that it's like $8 difference for when you make that jump from 11 cases to 12 at that lower price. That's important information. Now notice I'm not turning my line off yet because I've not put that many points, but I'm going to go ahead and turn off my line. The 16 from here are what we will be dealing with. So 12, 13. Just keep repeating these. It makes my life easier. See, and you can see more valid data points. You want to jump all the way up to 20, that's fine too. This does keep on going. All right. The only reason I put that 16 in there is because it's going to divide right back out so we can look at it case per case. These points are going to give you an estimate. You might want to turn on your line just so you can visualize certain things better. I do ask you, at what point is retail cheaper? So if you look in here, anything below, what is it? If we're looking at our old 32 fluid ounce jars where this crosses over, I have to zoom in. I've got my zoom function messed up. Bear with me. There we go. You'll see that in our 32 fluid ounce jars, if we were to buy 96 32 fluid ounce jars, anything below 96 32 fluid ounce jars would be at the retail price, would be less. If you'll notice, up to 32, or now divide this by 16 if you want to find how many of this is in wholesale. But up to 96 of those 32 fluid ounce jars. After that, we would want to go ahead and do wholesale. You'll notice wholesale is more expensive up to that point. And again, if this video still does not make sense after you've watched the live class and you've watched this, do the best that you can and let me know what it was that you struggled on. I'm always happy to clarify if you want to reach out. But don't spin your wheels on this. This is to give you short-term snapshot decisions. It's going to help you in your professional career make informed choices. I just wanted to get all the way back up here to this blue graph so you could see. I need to zoom out. I'll zoom in. And there's the blue. And you'll see the purple and the blue come together to make a piecewise function. If you want to see the valid data points, a little more clearly, you can turn off the line. All right. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you watch this video, thank you for watching it as well. I look forward to working with you again soon.